What's going on, guys? Mr. Jones coming at you once again. All right, we're going to extend our work on this Carlos and Clarita problem. Remember, we're talking about how they started a pet sitter business, okay? And they're learning to write equations for the boundary lines, which are the constraints, right? So we know we have constraints. They have only 360 square feet of space and only, I think, $1,280, right? So those are the things that we've learned in the past. So let's go ahead and get going. It says Carlos and Clarita are comparing strategies for writing equations of the boundary lines for the pet sitter's constraints. They're discussing their work on the space constraints. Let's recall cat pens require 6 square feet, dog runs require 24 square feet, and they have 360 square feet of available space. So it says Carlos's method is, he said, I made a table. If I don't have any cats, then I will have room for 15 dogs. Okay. And if I use some of the space for 4 cats, then I can have 14 dogs. So let's go ahead and start doing what Carlos said, right? Carlos said he made a table. We already determined before that X is cats and Y is dogs. Okay. And so then Carlos said that he made a table, and so he realized that if he had no cats, then he could have 15 dogs. And if he brought in 4 cats, he could have 14 dogs. So basically, for every 4 cats he added, he realized 8 cats, 13 dogs, that you're basically just doing what? Adding 4 cats and taking away a dog, right? Says for each additional dog run that I don't buy, I can buy 4 more cat pens. That's what you're supposed to realize before about the slope. Okay, so he says, so my equation is, and he uses an arithmetic sequence, right? So his method was to figure out what are you adding or subtracting by every time. So over here I have a -1, but over here I have a +4. So to find the slope, it's the change in y over the change in x, right? Rise over run. Rise, run. And so what is the change in y? That's my -1, right? And my change in x is +4. So that means that my slope is -1/4. So whenever he starts writing his equation, -1/4 x, and then whatever your y-intercept is, plus 15. And that's how he got his equation. So he's getting it in slope-intercept form. Okay? He just starts off with whatever x is being 0, and then just works from there and gets himself a couple values. That's pretty good. Clarita says, let's look at Clarita's method. Just follow along while I read. I let x represent the number of cats, and y represent the number of dogs. And since cat pens require 6 square feet, then Clarita says 6x represents the space used by cats. And since dog runs require 24 square feet, 24y represents the amount of space used by each dog. So 6 times 1x, 24 times 1y. And so it says, so my equation is, and then she basically says, if you add the space for cats to the space of dogs, it should equal 360. Okay? So this equation is Clarita's, and this equation is Carlos. Okay? So now we have 2 equations that you guys should have written down. Now it says question 1 finally, right? 4 minutes in. So question 1 says, since both equations represent the same information, they must be equivalent to each other. They're going to have the same exact graph, and all the x and y values should match up because they literally are the same. A says, show the steps you could use to turn Clarita's equation into Carlos's equation. And then the next one says, show the steps you could use to turn Carlos's into Clarita's. So you already know what both of the answers are. The question is, on A, could you start with this equation and convert it to slope-intercept form, which is Carlos's? Then the next one says, can you start with Carlos's which is this, right? And convert it to the one above, right? The one above. So basically you're starting here, converting to here, and then vice versa. That's what A and B is. And then it says explain what you do in each step. So that's number 1. Convert from slope-intercept form to standard form and vice versa. All right, number 2, it says use both Carlos and Clarita's method to write the equation of the boundary line for the startup costs. So good news is I know in previous videos I've given you these equations, okay? So it says they have $1,280 total to spend, and cats cost $32. That's ugly. Let's do this. Whoop. Cats cost $32 each, and dogs cost $80 each. Okay, so go back and look at the equation. I know you have each one already. I want to do all the work for you. And then go ahead and do the exact same thing. So 3 and 4 is just like 1A and B, where you're going to take your equations and show how you can convert from one to the other, okay, and vice versa. So that's number 3 and 4. So I don't want to give you all the answers. Go back and look in your notes. Go back and look on the previous task. What was the equation that we got? You can check task 5.1. I'm pretty sure in the video for that I gave it to you. All right, last but not least, it says in addition to writing an equation of the boundary lines, Carlos and Clarita need to graph their lines on a coordinate grid. Okay, so remember on Monday, you got a video on how to graph lines. You might want to check that out. Also, you got a video on how to find x-intercepts or y-intercepts. Okay, so you might want to check that out. But this is where it says Carlos's equations are written in slope-intercept form. Clarita's equations are written in standard form. Both forms are ways of writing linear equations. Both Carlos and Clarita know they only need to plot 2 points in order to graph a line. So Carlos's strategy, how might Carlos use slope-intercept form to plot 2 points? And then how might Clarita use her standard form equation to plot 2 points? And it says Clarita is really clever, so she looks for the 2 easiest points she can find. So I expect you guys to have 2 graphs, a graph for number 5, actually 1 graph. And then I want you to just talk about which points you chose, the strategy. So this is just going to be some typing. I expect you to type and say the strategy I used was first I plotted this point and then I did this, right? Pretend that you're explaining it to a friend. Like you're trying to show like what you did whenever they're asking you questions. All right, guys, that's literally the end of the task. There's a little bit of work to do. If you have questions on graphing the lines or other things, feel free to go back in the previous videos. We've gone over all this, and you should be good to go. Let us know if you have any questions, and have a great day.